Thank you all for tuning in for part 2. Please check out part 1 if you haven't already. It was posted about a week ago and I'm quite proud of it. Enjoy.
Honey bun, can you do something for me?
Number 5.
They tell you that the sky might fall.
So I don't generally tend to put songs on this negative of a list purely for being lazy. I do think that a lack of effort can go a long way to piss me off, but even then, it takes something particularly soulless to get me raging. Now, these are often the hardest picks to justify because all I can really do is say, listen to it and hope that you feel the same way that I do. And in 2023, as weird as it sounds, very few songs made me as furious as this one.
Turn up your radio, blast your stereo.
The fact that a Black Eyed Peas song is making my worst list in 2023 is sadly no surprise. Hell, just 3 years ago they made my list with Ritmo. Still can't believe that was a thing. But I will happily sit through 100 plays of that song before sitting through this even once. Because somehow, the simple fact of slowing down their old song Pump It and adding a generic dance beat made for one of the worst songs they've ever made. I dare even say they have never made a song that has hit me this hard emotionally in the worst way possible. And again, it's really hard to explain why exactly.
You wanna hate on us, you need to ease on us. I know why they hating on us.
Maybe it's just how charmingly energetic and dumb the original was, and how Tiesto's touches here utterly cripple that momentum.
So, turn me up, turn me up.
Maybe it's the fact that the filtered vocals sound atrocious when slowed down in this way, to the point where I practically scream whenever those horns come in.
Come on, baby, just pump it, pump it, pump it.
It's honestly kind of impressive. Tiesto took one of their few tolerable songs and then seemed to make it his life's mission to render it more unlistenable than almost any other Black Eyed Peas song. It's the kind of ugliness that is rare and special. Or it would be if I didn't have the feeling it was created in 5 minutes. And as someone who's been mostly okay just ignoring Tiesto and his giant hits up until now, I'm not gonna make that mistake again. You're right up there next to Jax Jones, who shockingly didn't make this list. And you're the reason why, because someone capable of this level of evil with such little effort, they must be stopped. So bring it on, Tiesto. I'm ready.
Honey bun, can you do something for me?
Number 4. Haha, great bit. Now to get this off. What's next? On second thought, I'm gonna keep this on for a bit.
Why you gotta go give me the ick? We were doing just fine, now I'm gonna be sick.
What you are currently listening to is the worst song that Anne-Marie has ever made. A song so bad that even she had the good sense not to put it on the album proper, as it showed up as a bonus track. I have no idea if anything I'm saying sounds normal right now because I can't hear a thing. But I don't think I need to explain further why this is here.
Used to love that boyfriend energy. Couldn't live without you next to me.
Oh, my hair. Fuck. That was a mistake.
We still living in the same house. Even got your name on my bank account.
Oh, that's so hot. Oh, I'm sweating.
We were doing just fine, now I'm gonna be sick.
Am I showing the whole thing? I think I am. Yay! Still the best band. Mwah.
Honey bun, can you do something for me?
Number 3. What? What? What?
What? Oh God! Might catch me at the award show. Eating popcorn in the back row.
You know, the nice thing about Ronnie Radke is he's very easy to ignore. Buried deep in the underground and only occasionally sticking his nose out of his cave the way he did this year. Whereas NF has a huge fan base, so no matter how hard I try, he keeps getting forced down my throat. And to be clear, it's not that I don't see his talent.
I've been searching. What does that mean, Nate? I've been learning. Grabbing my keepsakes, leaving my burdens. Well, I brought a few with me. I'm not perfect.
He's got good flow, decent energy, and while the Eminem comparisons are inevitable, which trust me, has nothing to do with the color of his skin, I appreciate that he usually avoids M's more cringeworthy humor.
Just lose it.
But see, that's part of the problem.
I could sell my house and move out to LA.
He strikes me as someone who takes themselves far too seriously. I'd honestly love a joke now and again. Maybe I should be careful what I wish for.
No nominations, but it's cool though. Oh God.
You ever see someone just get turned down for a promotion one too many times and just melt down in front of everybody? That's exactly how this comes across to me. I have never heard anyone less okay with not winning an award. When M or even Macklemore said that they don't make songs for the awards, I believe them. Whereas NF made an entire song about how he doesn't give a what, which only goes to show all the more plainly that he really does.
Didn't keep me from success, but delayed it some. I used to be the guy who killed to get it #1.
Don't get me wrong, the Grammys and other such shows are obviously rigged to some degree, but it's also a really bad look for you when you make a jackass out of yourself at these shows.
I could write a record full of radio songs, do a bunch of features that my label would love.
I think that these opening lines are bafflingly pathetic, as his argument as to why he's not been nominated for these awards is because he doesn't play your game by your rules, man. Because of course he doesn't. It would go against his nature to be a sellout. Puh, who would want that? You do, very clearly. And the fact that you spend an entire song passive-aggressively shitting all over the more successful artists that you're clearly jealous of, that is pitiful on a whole other level.
Where people sacrifice the art trying to chase a dream, and they wonder why their music's lacking creativity.
And yet, you also have the gall on your second verse to accuse people like me of being on our high horse?
Hope you break both of your legs falling off your horse. Telling me to get a life, you should look at yours. Congratulations, you can raise your voice.
How unaware do you have to be to shout that line?
You got the trophy, that's great. I'm happy for you, no hey. Still got a smile on my face.
Add on to that the rap rock production, because of course, and you have a strong contender for the worst song of the entire year. And trust me, it came close. However,
don't fix it, that's my motto.
Honey bun, can you do something for me?
Number 2. It's one thing to critique people who are far more successful than you. I do it all the time, it's awesome, even if you do sound incredibly jealous while doing it. It's a whole other thing when you're physically threatening millions of people.
Try that in a small town, see how far you make it down the road.
I know I said I wasn't going to include the obvious clickbait that was clearly just made to appeal to the red pill crowd for attention, but this isn't that. Because sadly, I think that Jason Aldean is a fair bit more nefarious than a lot of those idiots.
Stomp on the flag and light it up.
I don't think he did this for the attention. I think he did it because he's a raging piece of shit who doesn't fully understand the impact that a song like this could have on his very impressionable fan base. That, or he doesn't care. I mean, just look at the music video, which takes place in front of a courthouse in Tennessee, the site of a lynching in 1927, and also a race riot in 1946. And then you remember the seemingly isolated incidents, like when he dressed up in blackface as Lil Wayne for Halloween back in 2015. And then you look at all the pro-police rhetoric in this song, or this incredibly on-the-nose line.
Got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're gonna round up.
Yeah, I think we all know who they are. Especially when you also say, we take care of our own.
Around here we take care of our own.
Hell, I'm surprised you didn't make fun of how their English isn't too good, you bigoted prick.
Full of good old boys, raised up right.
It is almost hard to believe that someone with his platform would make a song this brazenly racist, waving his true colors so blatantly that it became a huge point of controversy this year in the US, pushing the song all the way to #1 and landing it at number 66 on Billboard's year-end Hot 100. At least Oliver Anthony, as dumb as he clearly is too, was trying to be inclusive and was accidentally quite racist in the process. Jason Aldean has no interest in eating the rich, he just wants America for Americans, or, you know, who he deems to be American. And he is more than willing to use violence to do it, completely and willfully ignoring why these anti-conservative protests that he hates so much are happening in the first place. Or again, he just doesn't care. Which is worse. Either way, he's a fucking monster, beyond any sort of redemption. And if I gave two shits about whether he lived or died tomorrow, maybe I'd put him at #1. As is, I just hope this is the end of his career, because if Nashville and Billboard continue to push his music after this, there's gonna be hell to pay. But before we get to what could have possibly beaten that, here are a few dishonorable mentions.
Rip out my shirt if you love me. Spit in my face when you fuck me.
This dropped late last year, but it was so much bigger in 2023, plus it appeared on the album, so I'm counting it. I kind of love how awful it is, with some of the worst lines of the entire year, with my personal underrated favorite being "Fat coochies, lil coochies, all coochies matter." Beautiful.
I am your mother, you listen to me.
This is not here because I think Meghan Trainor doesn't understand queer culture. It's here because that Mr. Sandman interpolation is so misguided that this guy recommended it. My favorite show of all time, by the way. What a great year for One Piece, you guys. Pathetic and attention-grabbing, I should ignore it, but the Virgil line is just in such poor taste that I couldn't.
Call her Virgil, 'cause the way she be blowing shit got me dead.
This kid deserves to get slapped.
Don't look for me.
I thought these guys were a pop rock band. What the hell happened?
Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the roads where you're missing home.
Central C had a surprisingly okay year, to the point where he didn't even top this trash. Of all the songs you could have sampled, swear to God.
I'm on 12 Vicodins smoking on Scooby-Doo dick.
If you're watching this, you are why this is here. You know who you are. You fucking degenerate. I listened to this once all the way through. After that, I couldn't get past Kurt Cobain Pokemon without instinctively skipping it.
Oklahoma City bombing Kurt Cobain Pokemon.
Hey, like this. Like this. Money gang nigga, we do it like this.
I am fully convinced that I am the only person on earth who listened to this album. It's just too sad for anybody else to have witnessed. I feel bad.
All aboard the toxic gossip train.
Motto is more tone-deaf and unaware, but not by very much. I can't fathom how nobody on her team stopped her from doing this.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Oh, you didn't think I was just gonna forget this dropped, did you? Tiny bit shocked that Last Night became the worst of the two for me, but this should still be considered David Guetta's highly expensive resignation letter.
I wish it was a year ago. I wish that I could hold you close.
Imagine if All For You by Kian Ducrot was even less tolerable. And on that note,
I wish that I could tell you that I'll miss you.
Honey bun, can you do something for me?
number 1. As you can clearly see, there were plenty of cardinal sins committed throughout 2023. Hell, I could easily have made a much longer list if I hated myself that much. But what always surprises me is what I end up hating most of all. Because if you look back on the history of the songs I've directed the most vitriol at, you have a half-acoustic guitar ballad shaming someone for being in the wrong relationship when they should really be with you, the most basic instrumental Justin Bieber has ever hopped on with his most punchable set of lyrics to date, And most notoriously, an acoustic guitar ballad about how all girls have daddy issues and that the only reason that fathers should raise their daughters right is so that they can serve as better wives to the men who will thirst after them. So, with all that in mind, it really shouldn't surprise me that this ended up being my most hated song of 2023. And yet somehow I'm still disappointed.
Everyone who falls in love is someone else they're thinking of.
I first encountered Cian Ducrot 2.5 years ago, well before he actually blew up. And even back then, I could see that there were some very selfish and guilt-tripping attitudes to his music. But I wrote it off. After all, there was some marked improvement with his subsequent singles. And also, he's an Irish artist. I wanted to give him a pass. Then this happened.
And I should have called, and I should have tried.
To this day, this is one of the worst hits of 2022, and it's an early contender for being one of the worst hits of the entire decade. After that, everything he dropped charted in some way, including a very mediocre second hit. But that's just it. It was all middling, meh, nowhere near as horrendous as his big hit. But then, one fateful afternoon, I sat down to listen to his latest offering, and I swear I turned a shade of purple I didn't know I was capable of. To call this a piano ballad would be generous, as said piano is incredibly basic and usually almost as processed as the backing vocals, which in turn are absolutely swamped with this ugly, distorted reverb, which clashes horribly with Cian's whiny lead vocals. And on that note, he sounds atrocious on this, easily his worst performance to date, with his breathiest, most wailing delivery pushing my patience almost as much as he does his limited vocal range.
But what if it's me who made her feel like she's not enough? Never enough.
Honestly, on performance alone, this is 10 times worse than All For You. The kind of screaming tantrum that almost makes you forget that in the song, he's supposed to be in this loving relationship.
She still thinks of him when she touches my skin.
Which brings us to the lyrics, which are why this is number one. Because I think this might be the most emotionally unhealthy song I've ever heard. Or at the very least, it's up there. You see, Cian here has a dilemma on his hands. He is convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that his current girlfriend can't stop thinking about her ex-boyfriend. Why does he think this, you ask? Well, because he can't stop thinking about his ex. So of course, she must be just as weak and non-committal as he is. In fact, he hypothesizes that everybody feels this way, projecting his own insecurities and character flaws onto everybody else, which is a dangerous game to play at the best of times. But this is the darkest timeline. So of course he follows it up by begging her to please stop thinking about her ex because he, Cian, can make her scream when he touches her and not 'cause it hurts. Oh yeah, that's a real line.
'Cause you scream when I touch you, not 'cause it hurts.
It's so pitifully insecure and lacking in self-awareness. Oh, and then there's this dismissive attitude.
I love how you lie when we talk about first.
Once again showing his complete lack of respect or trust for his girlfriend. Because in those moments where she's vulnerably sharing her history of intimacy with him, he just knows that she must be lying. And then you have, yeah, the worst line of the year.
Like sex in your car, 'cause you know it might hurt. I'm not the first one, baby.
The image of Cian Ducrot having miserable sex in the back of somebody's car is already an image that I didn't want in my head. But the thought that during said car sex, right at the moment where she's feeling this giddy joy of doing this with him, he's fully convinced that she must be feeling overwhelming guilt because he isn't the first person that she's doing this with? Oh, just go fuck yourself!
Guess that's the way when you fall out of love. Sometimes the wrong person does more than enough.
The ego on this guy is insane, essentially shaming this girl for all of her previous relationships before him, and refusing to enjoy any of their current time together because she has to feel as shitty as he does. Of course, this guy wouldn't hesitate to bring up your insecurities and throw them back in your face, but this is somehow worse because they're not her insecurities, they're yours, you fucking weirdo. And every time he brings up a new accusation, his voice gets more shrill as he screams about feeling like he wasn't enough for his last girlfriend and how he essentially ruined her completely out of the moment in his current relationship. Which, when that puzzle piece falls into place, very much frames him as this insecure, petty douchebag who clearly mistreated his last girlfriend, feels guilty about it, but doesn't know how to healthily process that. So instead, he just dumps that emotional baggage on his new partner. And then the backing vocals come wailing in and they sound just as shit as he does, and the entire thing is melodramatic to the nth degree, which doesn't help the song go by any quicker. It feels like it's 20 minutes when it's not even 3. I could go on and on and on, but this isn't worth it. It's the worst song of 2023 by a long shot, because among a bunch of songs that were pretty fucking toxic and insecure, this is the worst in both categories. Every time I listened to it, I just found myself boiling with rage that there's someone this popular right now who's this emotionally immature and so willing to project his insecurities onto other people. Because you just know it'll embolden certain members of his fan base to act the same way. If All For You was already a crime that I was not willing to overlook, this pretty much set the nail in the coffin for me as far as cutting Kian Ducrot any slack. One of the worst songs I've ever heard in about 8 years of doing this, and I can't believe that Kian Ducrot still has an audience after this. Disgusting on every level. If you're going to listen to everything on this list for whatever godforsaken reason, please at least just skip this song because it doesn't deserve any more attention.
Everyone who falls in love is someone else they're thinking of.
So yeah, that was a lot. See you on the next list. Subscribe if you want to see more of this. Leave a like to make me feel better about putting myself through this. And until the next time, I'm Finn, and this is The Social Tunes, signing off.
Do ba 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 do boo do a boo ba do boo boo ba do a do ba do ba do a do ba do ba do 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 a do ba do ba do.